Hare.
No way.
Saleka, you are now host. Hare Krishna.
Please, we'll talk this matter later. Make I go. Talk later. Make I go. Aribo.
Amen. NSD is a lot in the key. Ellie, bring me one water there. If you not can get the kitchen. Yeah.
So we are at the last kirtan in New York. We are live again. These beautiful kirtaniers touching my heart that we are here with all your favorite kirtaniers. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my respectful obeisances of the Prabhupada. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I think
we can start.
Yes, we can start.
Okay. Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshuramritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Jagati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shri Satmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Niti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvese Sasunyavadi Patsachade Satarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nana Shastra Vicharina Kano Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokena Hita Karuna Tribhuvane Manya Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vrinda Bhajanan Nandena Mataliko Pande Rupa Sanatana Raga Yugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Pande Rupa Sanatana Raga Yugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Pande Rupa Sanatana Raga Yugo Sri Jiva Gopalako. So everybody is welcome to this morning's section of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I think we are still on lesson 2. I think we ended on slide 68 or 67. 67. Okay, so I begin from 68 today. The slide is on the screen. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, welcome.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. This was planning for a funeral.
You are going for a funeral?
Somewhere, so maybe we hear any noise from the background. Yes. If you hear any noise from the background, I'm on a car now at the moment.
I see. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So I think we're discussing the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. And we came to this Sudulaba. Sudulaba means very difficult to achieve. So we have on the screen says, Lord Shiva says to Sati, my dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such process for many, many thousands of births. Sudulaba means very difficult to achieve. Pure devotional service is rare. Why is it rare? Because it is said that when one becomes a pure devotee, when one achieves this purity of devotional service, Krishna actually comes under his control. So, pure devotional service is controls the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it comes at the level of Baba. At the level of sadhana, one cannot experience Sudulaba. Sudulaba, the rarity of pure devotional service, can be experienced on the platform of Baba and then on the platform of Prema. Because one who is awarded with pure devotional service immediately controls the Lord by his devotion. So therefore it is said that Krishna does not easily give pure devotional service, because he knows that as soon as he gives pure devotional service, he becomes controlled by the devotee's love. And so therefore, Krishna is very, very selective when it comes to pure devotional service. So therefore, it is very difficult to achieve pure devotional service. Krishna can give material opulence. Krishna can give mystical power. Krishna can give anything very easily. He can give. But pure devotional service, one has to actually demonstrate that he wants to become an unalloyed servant of the Lord with no motives. Then only will Krishna give this pure devotional service. If you go to the next verse, the next slide.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I want to ask a question, please. same on the slide 68. Salika Prabhu, can you show the 68 again?
Okay, the previous slide.
Let me read the portion. So I'm reading the portion where it says, by performance of the ritualistic sacrifices activities. In the various Yuga that are past the Satya Yuga, from Treta Yuga, there was introduction of Aswamedha sacrifices, where the priest could even help animals to attain liberation by attaining a human form. I want to ask if the portion that is saying that, but all such enablers can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if it is tried for many years. During that Treta Yuga, when the introduction of Aswamedha sacrifices and other ritualistic yajnas were introduced, was that not their devotion to the Lord? Because if they could achieve liberation by that means, was that not their devotion to the Lord during the Treta Yuga era? Hare Krishna.
Well, each yoga has a process. One can achieve the Lord. So every yoga has a process. In Krita Yoga or Satya Yoga, there's a process. In Treta Yoga, there is a process. In Dwarapa Yoga, there's a process, and in Kali Yoga, there's a process. So if there is a process for the yoga, then that process can be used to achieve devotional service. But if it is not that yoga, it cannot be used. So if ritualistic ceremonies are the recommended processes for the people of Treta Yoga, then because it is a recommended process, they can achieve the result of service to the Lord. But any other yoga, it is not possible. And then also we have to understand that actually the whole purpose of every activity is to please the Lord. It is only when the Lord is pleased, then Krishna awards pure devotional service. It is not by our effort that we can attain pure devotional service. It is when the Lord is pleased with the actions, with the activities, then he awards pure devotional service. So even though these ritualistic ceremonies are given in Treta Yoga, but if they are not performed for the pleasure of Krishna, they are not performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, they will not achieve pure devotional service. Only those who perform those ritualistic ceremonies solely for pleasing Krishna, they can achieve devotional service, pure devotional service. They Krishna can give pure devotional service. Is that okay?
We should go to the next slide.
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So the next slide.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
I have a question also on the slide 66. In your comment, you say that Krishna don't give easily pure devotional service to the devotees. And when analyzing the thing, we saw that pure devotional service is for people who come to instruct us in this Kali Yuga.
Yes.
But when we are doing our effort all the time, we see that Maya have something to push us back all the time. How can we explain this?
Well,
Is that
the fact is that, as we're saying, Maya also has a role to play. Maya is more or less like the exams officer. When you go to school, you have to write exams in order to be graded. So Durga Devi is Mahamaya, and her duty is to identify those who are to be promoted and then identify those who are to be repeated. So even though we are trying very hard in our attempt to serve the Lord, but we must also be prepared to pass the test. So Maya Devi is rendering, Prabhupada says, a thankless service. We do not thank Maya for testing us. We don't even appreciate what Maya is doing to make us better devotees. All the challenges, all the difficulties that we are facing in Krishna consciousness are actually the mercy of Maya. They are the mercy of Durga Devi. It is said that Durga Devi has 2 types of mercy: Sakapata Kripa and Niskapata Kripa. The Sakapata Kripa is the mercy that Durga gives to the materialists. He gives them a lot of uplands, he gives them a lot of power, he gives them a lot of fame, and then they are satisfied with that, and they remain in the material world. That is one mercy of Durga Devi, Sakapata Kripa. So it is said that when Durga Devi
device is connected successfully.
When the Durga Devi wants to punish the living entity, he gives him a lot of power, a lot of fame. And that will keep him in the material world for a long, long time because he becomes attached. But when Durga Devi wants to actually favor a living entity, she gives the Niskapataya Kripa. That is, Durga Devi subjects the living entity to difficulties. And by those difficulties, the living entity surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So so-called challenges, so-called miseries, so-called troubles that we are experiencing in Krishna consciousness, actually, they are the Niskapata mercy of Durga Devi. They are actually stepping stones to Krishna. If we see them in the proper perspective, if we see them as mercy, it is said that whatever challenges we meet, we should simply see them as Krishna's mercy. Now Krishna wants to bring us closer. We should cry out to Krishna. We should take more shelter of Krishna. In this way, we can go back home, back to Godhead. So Durga Devi or Maya Devi, Mahamaya Devi, she's playing her role as the exams officer to make sure that we qualify for our next promotion in devotional service. So we must understand that, and as soon as some challenge comes our way, we should be thinking, oh, it is time for me to be promoted. That is why Durga Devi is bringing this test before me. If you always have this mindset, then you will take advantage of every problem that comes your way. But if you don't have this mindset, when the problems come, we will simply complain and we miss the advantage of making progress. So a devotee must always see every challenge, every difficulty as Krishna's special mercy for him to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Just see the Pandavas. The Pandavas are very intimate devotees of Krishna. And even Krishna was present with them But the Pandavas still went through one difficulty after another difficulty. So one may say, then where is that Krishna consciousness? One may say, where is Krishna? Why do the Pandavas have to go through such difficulties? But they didn't complain. They saw that those difficulties was meant to bring them closer and closer to Krishna. And that is why we see that Kunti Devi is praying for more difficulties. Kunti Devi, he says, Vipada Santu Tasaswat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavantu Darshanam Yatsya Apuna Bhava Darshanam. That is Kunti's prayer. Kunti is praying, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again to us, so that we can see you again and again. For seeing you means that will be the end of repeated birth and death. So Kunti Devi, she's the mother of the Pandavas. She was with the Pandavas throughout their difficulties. And now Krishna wants to leave Hastinapur after he has enthroned Yudhishthira Maharaj as the king, the emperor of the world. Krishna wants to leave and go back to Dwaraka. And this is what Kunti Devi is asking for. Now, my dear Lord, please bring more calamities, bring more difficulties, bring more challenges. Why? Because these challenges make us remember you. And when we remember you, it means there is no more birth and death. So this is the mindset of very exalted personalities. So we may not pray for problems because we are not on that platform. We are not on this platform to pray for problems. No, we should not imitate. But we should be in this consciousness that whatever challenges are coming to us, there is some mercy behind it. Whatever difficulties we are facing now, Krishna has some plan behind it. And if we just try to become more surrendered, if we become more loyal, if we become more sincere towards Krishna, we will make very serious advancement in Krishna consciousness. Actually, anytime we go through some difficulty, anytime we meet with some challenge, right after that challenge, we can see how much progress we have made in Krishna consciousness. So, devotees should see challenges as stepping stones to Krishna. And that is the job of Maya Devi, Mahamaya Devi, Durga Devi. She is the supreme exam officer in the material world, and she's just doing her job. So, when we are able to pass all these tests, all these challenges, then Krishna will say, yes, this devotee really wants pure devotional service. This devotee really wants to become my devotee, my servant. And then Krishna will give pure devotional service. If you look at all the great devotees, they went through trouble. That is a fact. All the great devotees, they went through a lot of trouble, but they did not see them as trouble. They saw them as challenges. They saw them as mercy coming from Krishna. So they became very firm, very determined, very enthusiastic, and they went forward. And as a result, they convinced Krishna that they are ready for pure devotional service. And Krishna gives that pure devotional service. So whatever challenge we face in our spiritual life, we should see the mercy of Krishna coming through that challenge. We should see that Durga Devi is simply favoring us on our path of bhakti by bringing those challenges. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So
Krishna.
we can go to the next slide, which is slide 69. Getting the blessings of one completely free from contamination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by personal efforts or by the instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who is completely freed from the contamination of material desires. So, actually, the qualification for performing your devotional service is that one must obtain the mercy of an exalted Vaishnava. One must be blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a very exalted Vaishnava, who is completely free from the contaminations of material desires. See, it is said that Bhakti begets Bhakti. Bhakta, Bhaktya Sanjayata Bhaktya. From Bhakti, devotional service sprouts. Without a touch of the pure devotee, without the mercy of the pure devotee, it is difficult for us to actually develop Bhakti. The seed of Bhakti has to be planted. Without the seed of Bhakti, how can Bhakti germinate? If you don't plant a seed in the soil, you do not expect a plant to come out. So therefore, Bhakti, the seed of Bhakti, the Bhakti Lata Bija, Bija means the seed, can only be obtained from the exalted devotees. And that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing us in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Saru Sangha, Sarva Shastra Haya, that a moment's association with exalted devotees will give us the opportunity to receive that Bhakti Lata Bij. That Bhakti Lata Bij must be planted through hearing. It is said that when the pure devotees they speak, because they carry Krishna within their hearts, the dust of Krishna's lotus feet, the saffron dust of Krishna's lotus feet, are carried with the words by the pure devotee from his heart. And those words that are mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna coming from the heart of the pure devotee enters our ears. And when they enters our ear, they go down to the heart. The heart is the ground, is the fertile ground for the seed to germinate. So that interaction, that contact, facilitates the planting of the Bhakti Lata Bij. And then with further practice, chanting and hearing, and association, the Bhakti Lata Bij begins to germinate. It begins to grow. And with further watering and care, it grows into a plant. And this plant grows and grows and grows and penetrates the material sky. And then it enters the spiritual sky. Then it continues to grow and grow and grow. And then it takes shelter at the lotus feet. Prabhu has given us the mantra here. Salika Prabhu has just highlighted the mantra. Sadhu Sangha, Sharva Shastra Kaya, Lava Mantra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. The Vedic of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can achieve all success. So this is a very important statement made by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because one cannot receive bhakti from a non-devotee. One cannot receive bhakti from a Mayavadi. One cannot receive bhakti even from a yogi who is practicing Ashtanga Yoga, the mystical perfection. One can only receive bhakti from a bhakta. And as you know, Krishna says, Aham bhakta paradino, hi aswantarata eva dvija, that I am completely under the control of my devotees. I am not at all independent, because my devotees are completely devoid of all material desires. I sit in their hearts. I sit within the core of their hearts. So Krishna is sitting in the hearts of his pure devotees. And when the pure devotees speak, their words carry the saffron dust of the lotus feet of Krishna, and that lotus, those dust, particles of dust, saffron dust, are distributed to the audience. And that is why the scriptures is recommending that we must hear from a pure sadhu. We must hear from a Mahatma, one who is completely free from all material desires. Because Krishna is seated in his heart, and when he speaks, the dust, the dust coming from the lotus feet of the Lord, they come out with the words of the great devotee, and those dusts will enter our ears and settle down in our hearts, and there the Bhakti Lata beach will be planted and nourished. So, as Prahlad Maharaj is saying here, one must receive the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee, who is completely free from the contamination of the material world. We can go to the next slide, slide 70. So reasons why pure devotional service is difficult to achieve. So there are two reasons why pure devotional service is extremely difficult to achieve. One is that we cannot attain it by our own efforts. And two is that Lord Krishna is very reluctant to give pure devotional service. So these are the two reasons why it is difficult. And it's called Sudurlabha. It's very difficult to achieve, because by our own efforts, it's not possible. It's not possible. We must get the mercy of a very advanced devotee. We must get the mercy of a pure servant of Krishna. Without that, it's not possible. And secondly, Lord Krishna is also reluctant to easily give pure devotional service. Why? Because Krishna becomes a servant, Krishna comes under the control of his devotees. Narada Muni informed Yudhishthira Maharaj how the Pandavas' pure devotional service obliged Lord Krishna to become even their menial messenger. But he said that this is the nature of pure devotional service. It actually purchases Krishna. Krishna becomes sold out to his devotee or to any devotee that he has given pure devotional service. Rajan Pati Guru Alam Bhavatam Yadunam Daivim Priya Kula Pati Kwa Cha Kintaro Vaha. My dear King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandu and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, your worshipable deity, your friend, and the director of all your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves you as a messenger or a servant. This means he works just as an ordinary servant for the Pandavas. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the law very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render pure devotional service. So therefore, the Lord is reluctant, Krishna is reluctant to give pure devotional service, because by giving pure devotional service, he becomes controlled by the devotees. So this is the reason why Krishna is reluctant to give pure devotional service. Srimati Radharani controls Krishna. Why? Because Srimati Radharani is the topmost devotee of Krishna. Srimati Radharani loves Krishna completely. Her thought, everything she does, her thinking, her feeling, her willing, is all meant for Krishna's pleasure. She doesn't do anything outside of thinking of how to please Krishna. And because of this, she has won over Krishna. Krishna has become her property. So therefore, to award pure devotional service, Krishna is reluctant. Because as soon as he awards the devotee pure devotional service, Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna becomes controlled by his devotees. So therefore, pure devotional service is manifested on the Bhava stage and on the Prema stage. When there is love, when one experiences love for Krishna, when one demonstrates his love for Krishna, then Krishna awards that pure devotional service. We can go to the next slide, 71. So here, Rupa Goswami described 3 types of devotional service. So Rupa Goswami describes 3 types of devotional service: Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. In the category of service in practice, there are 2 different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. In other words, in Sadhana Bhakti, there are 2 branches. In Bhava Bhakti, there are 4 qualities. And in Prema Bhakti, there are 6 qualities. So the next slide talks about Sadhana Bhakti. It says, Kriti Sadhya Bhavat Sadhya Bhava Sa Sadhanana Vidaha Nitya Sidasya Bhavasya Prakrityam Hiridi Sandhyata. When transcendental devotional service by which love for Krishna is attained is executed by the senses, it is called Sadhana Bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice. So, devotional service is already there in the heart of every living entity, because we are part and parcel of Krishna eternally. So that link is there, but it has to be awakened. So to awaken that love for Krishna, that devotional sense for Krishna, one has to engage in practical activity. The senses, the body must be engaged. So, and that is defined as Sadhana Bhakti. When we engage the senses, when we engage the body and the mind in devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, that is called Sadhana Bhakti. And that is the beginning of the process. One cannot jump to Bhava Bhakti or Prema Bhakti without going through the process of sadhana, except for those Nitya Siddhas. Those who are Nitya Siddhas and have been sent by the Lord to execute a particular mission, they don't need to practice sadhana bhakti to come to the Bhava or Prema platform. They are already on that platform. But for the Nitya Bada, the eternally conditioned souls, they have to practice sadhana bhakti in order to awaken the dormant Krishna consciousness in their hearts. So, as we said before, on the sadhana level, 2 qualities of pure devotional service can be experienced: Subhadha and Klekshagni, auspiciousness and the freedom from misery that we can all experience. On the Bhava level, Siddhulabha and Moksha Nagu Takrit. And on the Prema level, Sri Krishna Kakti and Sadhva Nanda Visheshatma. So on the Bhava platform, on the Sadhana platform, we can feel the auspiciousness of devotional service, and we can feel the freedom from miseries. And for the sadhana practice, it is all of two kinds. There is Vaidhi sadhana and Raghunuga sadhana. I think is coming up in the slide soon. Let's go to 73. Slide 73. Okay, so from which is just showing us the six characteristics of devotional service. Then we're going to 73. Qualifications for practicing devotional service. Swarupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for personal consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular text.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Before we move forward. The last two slides, we're talking about devotional service cannot be achieved without coming in contact with the pure devotee.
Yes.
And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that one's fortune starts when he comes in contact with the pure devotee. Now, for coming into Krishna consciousness, whoever has had an opportunity to come in contact with Krishna consciousness is considered to be fortunate. Yeah. Because Srila Prabhupada is a acharya of this movement, is a pure devotee. So by coming into Krishna consciousness, one is already become fortunate, he has already come in contact with pure devotional service. But Srila Prabhupada is not physically on the planet. There are many of his devotees who are on different level of devotional service. There are those who are on Prema, there are those who are on Madhya, there are those who are still Kanishta. Now, in the course of one's trying to become a devotee while having the opportunity to be in Krishna consciousness, how do one attract or how do one get the fortune of being able to identify and relate and associate with a pure devotee within the system? Because we know there are different levels of devotees.
Well, in the first place, Prabhupada's mercy is still flowing. That's the first situation. It's still flowing in the form of his books, in the form of his instructions, in the form of his lectures, in the form of his guidance. So the mercy, Prabhupada had not taken his mercy away. As it is said, even when the great devotees leave behind the boat of their mercy, so that the living entities in the material world can still get the mercy. So, Srila Prabhupada's mercy is still here with us. And we can even see that most of us, we did not meet Srila Prabhupada personally. Yes. And how do we become devotees? Simply by reading his books. When we received Prabhupada's books and we read it, we became enthusiastic, we became excited, and immediately we decided to follow this Krishna consciousness. Somebody may say he did not read a book, he met a devotee. That is still Prabhupada's mercy. The disciples of Srila Prabhupada, the grand disciples, great grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they are the bearers of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And so when we meet the disciples of Prabhupada, his grand disciples, we receive his books, we hear his lectures, whatever, we are still in touch with that mercy. And that mercy is still making many devotees and giving people the opportunity to make progress. And in fact, even sometimes, Srila Prabhupada still manifests himself in this world. I heard a story of a lady in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe, a lady had received a book, one of Prabhupada's books, and he read it and he loved it. So he decided to trace to the temple because the temple address is there. But the temple is located in a situation that even though he tried to trace it, he cannot find it. And he was very eager, he was very determined to go to the temple because he has read the book and he felt that this is what I need. I must associate with the devotees. So in his enthusiasm to get to the temple, his anxiety to find a temple, Prabhupada appeared before this lady with a walking stick in his saffron dress. He appeared before the lady and said, "You're looking for the Hare Krishna temple?" And the lady said, "Yes." He said, "Go down straight, go right, turn left. There is a close. The temple is in that close. You'll find a temple." So this lady, she followed the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. But she didn't know that was Srila Prabhupada. He just saw an old man in saffron cloth with a walking stick directing her to where she wanted to go. She was very thankful. But when she got to the temple, she saw the murti of Srila Prabhupada. She saw the deity of Srila Prabhupada on the Vyasasan. And she recognized that it was that person who actually showed her the way to the temple. So she started telling the devotees, "Oh, this person sitting here is the person who directed me to the temple." And the devotees were shocked. They were surprised. How is that possible? So he has passed away. They are telling the woman, this is the founder of our movement. He has passed away since 1977. He's not on the planet anymore. The woman will not believe them. The woman said, "No, no, 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 you are not talking facts. This person, he met me down the road when I was looking for this place up and down. I was trying to find the place I can't find. He appeared before me and directed me to the temple. He's the same person sitting here. How can you say he's dead?" So the devotees were bewildered, and the lady was bewildered. So it is said that even though Srila Prabhupada is physically absent, but sometimes he still manifests himself in a physical way to give his mercy to desiring souls. So Prabhupada's mercy is still here in so many forms. He's here in the form of his ISKCON, his movement. He's here in the form of his books. He's here in the form of his devotees. He's here in the form of his lectures, his instructions. So we can always take advantage of any of these forms of Prabhupada, and we can make progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. I don't know whether the explanation answers your question.
Yes, I don't want to prolong it, but I want to ask a further question to that question, just for my clarity. Prabhupada is physically not present, but he's always present. I'm a testimony to that. I never met any devotee. I just bought books on the streets, and I just read it, and that's very day, I took to vegetarianism. I started practicing Krishna consciousness. So I know Srila Prabhupada's potency is there in his books and all of that. So, and it's still there. But my question now is that when joint devotional service, when that statement that one cannot become a devotee without meeting a devotee. Yes, when we meet a devotee, whether directly through Prabhupada, through his books, or through the representatives like the devotees who are in the movement. Now, the gap in between that time when you get in contact with a pure devotee and the time you attain the goal of devotion or service of bhakti, now is a wide gap, and it can be very small. So my question is that in the course of that, for someone whose spiritual master is physically on the present, it's okay. For one whose spiritual master is not physically there are times in devotions where there are practical needs. And Srila Rupa Goswami's instruction is that one must constantly associate with a pure devotee for him to advance in the course of devotion in life. That continuity is where my point now is. How do we identify that person within the system, even though there are so many devotees? How do we identify? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, your question is clear now. So to identify an exalted personality in the process of bhakti, we have to observe their activities. By their activity, we can know how exalted they are. Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that my devotees are constantly chanting my names. Constantly. So one who is constantly chanting Krishna's names, one who is eager to expand Krishna consciousness, one who is completely devoid of all material desires, these are the parameters that we look for. One who is completely dedicated to Srila Prabhupada's mission. He is absorbed in chanting the names of Krishna, absorbed in preaching Krishna consciousness. He has no time for anything material. His whole life is dedicated to Krishna consciousness. We must understand that such a person is very exalted, because there is a lot of distraction in the material world. And even sometimes a sincere sadhaka practitioner is sometimes deviated from his path. But one who is constantly devoted, constantly absorbed in chanting, preaching, guiding others, helping others, distributing Krishna consciousness, expanding Krishna consciousness, we should understand that such a person is empowered by Krishna, by his guru, to execute Krishna consciousness. And so when it comes like that, we can easily find, if you look among the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, you can find that there are some devotees that are so absorbed in preaching, in chanting, in spreading Krishna consciousness, and that is their life. They have nothing to think about. So from these, we can identify such devotees and then begin to associate with them. That is why there is this number of spiritual masters. ISKCON has this multiplicity of spiritual masters, so that one can take as many sikshas as possible. By observing the devotees, the Vaishnavas, you can see the exemplary life of these Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. And therefore, you can seek their shelter. If you are having difficulty in selecting, you can also consult with other senior Vaishnavas. Now you want to take shelter of one particular Vaishnava, but these are the things you're looking for. They can also help you to identify the person you want to take shelter of. But definitely, Prabhupada has created so many pure devotees, and his movement is still continuing to create many more pure devotees. So if we just look closely with these parameters, who is that person who is always chanting Hare Krishna? Who is that person who is always distributing Hare Krishna? Who is that person who is expanding Prabhupada's mission? Who is that person who does not have anything to do materially? He has no interest in anything material. His only desire is to give Krishna consciousness to others. If you look at this, you'll be able to find somebody so that you can take shelter of him. And there are many of them that I can assure you. Hare Krishna. So let's go to the next slide.
Sorry, Maharaj, before you go,
Yeah.
Astamo Dina Bala wants to ask a question.
Who?
Astamo, please can you unmute and ask a question?
Okay.
Astamo Dina Bala.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavad Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam.
Wonderful lectures.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something.
Maharaj, you gave two reasons why pure devotional service is difficult to achieve.
Yes.
The second one, I said Lord Krishna is reluctant to give.
Yes.
Because Krishna becomes controlled by giving
pure devotional service. Yes.
And so you could see that most of we the devotees, a lot of us fall on the way because Maya is pulling us. So, in my own little opinion, I'm thinking that because we are going straight to Krishna, we are reciting, chanting his pranam straight away, quite probably. So, why don't we do it through somebody who is a pure devotional devotee, like Lord Brahma, so that he will intercede on our behalf. We chant Brahma's mantra so that when he is pleased, or he will intercede on our behalf. So when we qualify, then when Krishna says, okay, I will meet them halfway, and then probably the Maya effect will be less, so that we can at least achieve halfway. He will consider us halfway, even through Srimati Radharani or any other lower form of Krishna. I think that would be better, on my own opinion, than to go straight to Krishna, who is very difficult to please.
Yes, that's why we are not going directly to Krishna. We are going through his devotees. That is why we accept the Guru.
But we are chanting Manam straight.
Yes. Even see, the process is that the Guru is pointing to his Guru, and his Guru is pointing to his Guru. Actually, our Sampradaya is coming from the Brahma. So the process is that we offer our prayers to our spiritual master, and that's why we chant his pranams every day, every moment. And so also offers his prayer to his Guru, and it goes all the way through Brahma to Krishna. So that is the process of bhakti. We cannot actually directly approach Krishna. We don't even have the qualification to directly approach Krishna. But we are approaching Krishna through his devotees, through the spiritual master, through Balaram, through Radharani, through Nityananda, through the exalted associates of the Lord, because we cannot approach him directly. So the whole process of Krishna consciousness is to go through his devotees. That is why most of the time we are glorifying the spiritual master. When we go for Mangarati, the first songs we sing is glorification of the spiritual master. And after we have glorified the spiritual master, then we glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. Then after we glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva, now we go to glorify Krishna directly. And even that, the Hare Krishna mantra, which is the glorification of the Lord, we don't begin with Krishna. We begin with Hare. Hare is Radharani.
Okay.
Yes. So the whole process is that we have to go through his devotees, because we have no access to Krishna at all. But by going through his devotees, Krishna becomes merciful. Krishna becomes kind. Actually, it said that the spiritual masters are servants of Srimati Radharani. The spiritual masters are assistants to Srimati Radharani. And so when you render service through the spiritual master, the service is offered to Srimati Radharani, and Srimati Radharani, she has that caliber of devotion to actually offer something to Krishna. And if Radharani says, Krishna, see this devotee, he's trying very hard, Krishna accepts. So actually, our process is to go through the devotees. And that is why initiation is important, because you cannot take initiation from Krishna directly, neither can you receive the mantra from Krishna directly. Of course, sometimes some devotees, they got a chance like that, but they are rare. Like the case of Kandarma Muni. Kandarma Muni, Krishna personally appeared to Kandarma Muni and gave him instructions. But that is a rare situation. In most cases, you have to take shelter of a devotee of the Lord, take guidance from him, and then your service, your endeavors are passed on and passed on to Srimati Radharani, and Srimati Radharani offers them to Krishna, and then she recommends that, my dear Lord, my dear Krishna, see the devotee. He's trying very hard to serve you. Please show him some mercy. And as soon as Srimati Radharani recommends, Krishna will accept. So that is our process, actually. Because without that process, it is difficult for us to actually embark on the path of bhakti. Without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, without the mercy of his disciples, where are we? We won't have any access to Krishna consciousness. It is only by the mercy of the pure devotees that we are all connected to this process. So the fact is, we are actually going through the mercy of the pure devotees.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I am Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
You're welcome. So let's go on to the next slide, which is 74, I guess.
Okay. Are we done with 73?
I don't know. Okay, let's see 73. 73.
73. We're on the 73 when I asked the question.
Qualification for practicing devotional service. Rupa Goswami says, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotion. He has had some previous connection with it. So, devotional service begins when we receive the costless mercy of a devotee. And that must be understood, that unless we come in touch with a pure devotee, there is no question of beginning devotional service. So, devotional service begins when we receive the costless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. By this mercy, one may unknowingly perform devotional service, which is called Agyata Sukriti. By coming in touch with a devotee, one unknowingly perform devotional service. And thus one develops some taste. When one comes in touch with a devotee and perform this Agyata Sukriti, serving the devotee, by doing some favor to the devotee, by assisting the devotee, one immediately gets the opportunity to service. And by such service, one develops taste or attraction to bhakti. And there is no qualification required for receiving this costless message devotee. The devotees are available. The devotees are available, and their business is just mercy. Their business is just to give the opportunity to as many living entities as possible, knowing very well that every living entity is eternally a servant of Krishna. So the devotee's desire is to give everyone the chance to become a devotee. So in that sense, anyone who comes in touch with the pure devotee and receives the mercy from the pure devotee, he can engage in devotional service. Spiritual advancement is eternal. An attraction gained from previous advancement in devotional service remains in the heart and impels one to seek the association of devotees so that he can continue with the practice of Krishna consciousness. It is said that there are 3 types of sukritis. There is Bogon Yumuki Sukriti. Bogon Yumuki Sukriti means pious activities that brings material opulence. Pious activities that bestows material opulence on the jiva. That is called Bogon Yumuki Sukriti. Bogon Yumuki Sukriti. Pious activities that gives material facilities. Like we see, some people are born in very wealthy families. Some people are born very brilliant, very beautiful. These are all material opulence. How did they get it? Because in their previous lives, they have accrued, they've accumulated Bogon Yumuki Sukriti, pious activities, so much of this piety for material opulence, they've accumulated it. And so by their karma, they are born into very wealthy families, very, very famous families, and so on. Then we have Mushomuki, Mushonmuki. That is Sukriti. That is those who are desiring to merge into the Brahman effulgence. Those who are desiring liberation into the Brahman effulgence. They also perform specific Sukritis that allows them to merge. But there is Bhakti Yumuki Sukriti. Bhakti Yumuki Sukriti is the pious activity that helps to awaken Krishna consciousness in the heart of the living entity. So when one comes in touch with a devotee, then this Bhakti Yumuki Sukriti begins to act. And this Bhakti Yumuki Sukriti can only be gained in the association of devotees. You cannot gain it from impersonalists, you cannot gain it from materialists, you cannot gain it from yogis. No, you can only gain it from devotees. Before we came to Krishna consciousness, we might have met different types of spiritualists, different yogis, ekis, and what have you. But we do not have the qualification to render devotional service until we meet a devotee. So Bhakti Yumuki only becomes available in the association of devotees. And that is why it is important to seek the association of devotees, because the association of devotees generates this Bhakti Yumuka Sukriti, the piety that bestows devotional service, the piety that awakens devotional service, the piety that fosters devotional service. So devotional service is a continual process. In this life, if we are not able to complete our Krishna consciousness, and we drop off even a moment's service, 1 day devotional service, 1 month devotional service, 1 year devotional service, it is not lost. Krishna says, even a tiny percentage of devotional service will protect us from the greatest fear, the greatest danger. So any devotional service we are rendered is stored in the heart. And in the next slide, we will continue. So he says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take the devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with devotional service. So, of course, if somebody meets a pure devotee, even if he has no previous devotional service, by the Shakti of that pure devotee, he can perform devotional service. Like it is mentioned that one time one disciple of Srila Prabhupada was asking Srila Prabhupada, or he was telling Prabhupada, I don't know what kind of pious activity I've performed in my previous life to be engaged in Krishna consciousness in this life. And Prabhupada said that I am your pious activity. I am your Bhakti Yumika Sukriti. Because I have come to the West. If I have not come to the West, you will never have the chance to perform devotional service. But because I've come to the West, I have brought that Sukriti, I have brought that piety to you. And so I am your good fortune. I am your pious activity. So by the potency of the devotee, the pure devotee, he can engage anyone, even very fallen souls, in devotional service. Like we even see the case of the prostitute who went to tempt Haridas Thakur. She's a very degraded woman, very fallen. But by the association of Haridas Thakur, she also became exalted Vaishnavi. So by the potency of the pure devotee, anyone can be given a chance. Anyone can be given the Sukriti, Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti, so that he can perform devotional service. So the next slide, 74. I hope we can finish this lesson today, so that tomorrow we begin with lesson 3. Says practice means employing the senses. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service and practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, some are meant for executing the conclusions of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. So sadhana bhakti means employing the senses, employing the mind, and employing the body. One cannot say he is performing sadhana bhakti and does not engage his senses, he does not engage his body, he does not engage his mind in Krishna consciousness. Then it's not sadhana. Sadhana means devotional service in practice. It means action. And as we learned from the previous lessons, Anushlanam, devotional service means cultivation, is an activity. We cannot say we are performing devotional service without any activity. And that is why it is important for temple management to always keep everyone engaged. Without engagement, we cannot make progress, because devotional service in practice means action. It means activity. So everyone must be engaged in some practical activity for Krishna's pleasure. It is only then Krishna becomes attracted. When we engage in some practical activity for Krishna's pleasure, Krishna easily takes notice and he reciprocates with that action. But if we don't engage in any activity, we don't engage our body, we don't engage our senses, we don't engage our mind in any activity, and we claim that we are devotees, it's a joke. That is why Rupa Goswami is saying here, practice is not for developing something artificial. Practice is not an idle business. Practice means practice, action. So devotional service means action, especially Vaidhi Bhakti means activity. Under the guidance of the spiritual master, we engage our senses, we engage our mind, we engage our body. And gradually, we will make some advancement. So we can move to the next slide. This is 75. This one is 76. 75 says the duty of the spiritual master. Okay. So as we're saying, sadhana bhakti cannot be practiced in isolation. It has to be practiced under the care of the spiritual master. So here I said the duty of the spiritual master. The essence of sadhana bhakti is to fix the mind on Krishna. Therefore, the duty of the acharya or spiritual master is to find ways and means for his disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. So this is the job of the spiritual master. His duty is to engage the disciples. The disciples must be engaged. And the temple management represents the authority of the spiritual master. So it is the duty of the temple management to keep everyone engaged. Because without engagement, without activity, we cannot actually make advancement. So one has to receive instructions, receive guidance, receive direction from the spiritual master for a particular type of service. And that practical activity will gradually reveal Krishna. In the pastimes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it is mentioned how one young boy, student, he sat in a class and he heard that just by hearing the guru, the glorification of the spiritual master that we sing every morning, that just by hearing those prayers every day regularly, one becomes qualified to go to enter the spiritual world just by hearing those songs on daily basis. So we can see what Prabhupada has given us. Just by hearing those songs on daily basis, that one becomes eligible to enter the spiritual world. So this young devotee, when he heard this in the class, he decided that he must stay in the temple so that he can hear the Guru Astaka, the 8 prayers glorifying the spiritual master. So he approached the temple authorities that they should allow him to stay in the temple so that he can, at least every morning, he can witness the Mangalarati, he can hear the Guru Astaka on daily basis. So the temple authorities allowed him. But after some time, devotees started criticizing him because he only comes in the evening, sleeps, attends Mangarati. Right after Mangarati, he leaves because he has to go to school. So some devotees started criticizing devotees in the mat. They started criticizing the temple authority, criticizing the boy. How can they allow this young boy to sleep in the temple? and just he doesn't do any service. He just comes in the night, sleep here, and the next morning at Mangarati is gone. This is not correct. So the news reached Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he called the boy and asked the boy, why do you choose to sleep in the temple instead of sleeping in your father's house? And he explained that I heard in a class that just by hearing this Guru Astaka on daily basis, one becomes qualified to go back to Godhead. And so when I heard that, that's why I decided to stay in the temple overnight so I can hear those prayers. So I said, very good, wonderful, that's wonderful. But you cannot just sleep in the temple, just hear the Guru Astaka and go away. Once you are hearing the Guru Astaka, you must practicalize it. You must engage in some practical service. Otherwise, just hearing and hearing alone is not sufficient. You must engage in the service of the spiritual master. So therefore, I recommend that you come back from school on time and wash the pots and plates in the temple. If you do that, you are serving the Guru. So the boy agreed, okay, I will come back from school on time instead of just coming to sleep. I will come a little bit early, wash all the pots, wash all the plates, and sleep. So he started doing that service. Then one day, Srila Siddhanta called him and said, look, this is very nice, but I would like you to distribute some books also. So at the weekends, because you're not going to school at the weekends, you can take some magazines, you can go into your community and enlist people to read these books. And I assure you, if you can make 100 people to read these magazines, I'll be very pleased with you. So this young boy agreed. And so he took the magazines, and then on Saturday and Sunday, he would go around trying to enlist people to read the magazines. Though it was difficult in the beginning, but eventually he was able to enlist 100 people to read Bhakti Siddhanta's articles in the magazine. And so this devotee, he was making progress after progress. And eventually, when he completed his school, he joined the temple full time and eventually became one of the sannyasis, strong, big preachers in the mat, Gaudiya mat. So the point here is that one has to be directed by the spiritual master. And the temple management, they represent the authority of the spiritual master. So anybody coming to the temple, he must be engaged. Devotional service means practical activity, practical action. We cannot perform devotional service just by reading, just by hearing, and without applying the knowledge that we have read or heard. We must engage in some practical activity. It is only then Krishna becomes attracted. When we engage our senses, we engage our mind, we engage our body in the service of the Lord. So that is what is necessary here. And that's the duty of the spiritual master. And Acharya's duty is to make sure that any soul that comes close is engaged in service. And the temple authorities must carry that mission of the spiritual master and ensure that everyone has some service. Actually, it is a favor. When we give people service, we're actually favoring them. Because without that service, Krishna will not recognize them. So when we give people service, we are actually favoring them by linking them to Krishna. By their service, Krishna will become attracted. By their service attitude, Krishna becomes aware of their presence. So giving people service is very important because that's the way we bring them in front of Krishna. We can go to the next slide. '76. So it says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's authorized program. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an authorized program for this purpose. centered around the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attracts one to Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Somehow or the other, one has to fix his mind on Krishna. The great saint Ambarish Maharaj, although a responsible king, fixed his mind on Krishna. And similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very, very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. So Mahaprabhu has given us a program. And this program begins with chanting. It's centered around chanting. So anybody who comes to the temple, anybody who associates with devotees has to be introduced to this chanting. Because this Maha Mantra is actually non-different from Krishna. When we give the Maha Mantra to people, we are actually giving Krishna to those people. When we encourage people to chant the Maha Mantra, we are actually offering Krishna to them. Because the mantra is complete. Purna Sudo. Purna means complete. Sudo means pure, transcendental. So the holy name is Purna Sudo. It's complete in itself and pure, like Krishna. And therefore it said, Binatram, Nama Namino. Binatram. The name and Krishna, they are not different, they are the same, they're identical. So when we give the holy name to anybody, we are actually giving Krishna to that person. And when he chants the holy name, he's actually inviting Krishna into his life. So Mahaprabhu's mission is to give everyone the chance to associate with Krishna. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Bhava, Bhavamrita Yahi, Yaha, Bhavamrita Yaha. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is to distribute love of Godhead. Aswadya Swadyam Bhaktam, Pramadiksham Asishayat. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to demonstrate to us the nectar of the holy name, the importance of the holy name, by doing it himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is chanting the holy name. He goes on Harinam every day, and he chants Japa every day. So he is demonstrating how important the holy name is. So that is Mahaprabhu's program. His program is to distribute love of Godhead. And he demonstrated that by himself. He does it himself. So the example is here, even Ambarish Maharaj, although a very responsible king, he fixed his mind on Krishna. And similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. So the Maha Mantra is meant to fix our mind on Krishna. That's why it's called mantra. Mantra means to free the mind. There are so many contaminations in the mind, in the heart. And to become a devotee, one must diminish these contaminations. the more we reduce the contaminations of the heart and the mind, the easier it is for us to become devotees. And the more we increase the contaminations of the mind and the heart, the more it's difficult to become a devotee. Because contamination means material existence. And purity means spiritual existence. Dravyena Sudhi Asudhi Cha. One must live a pure life. Sudhi. Sudhi means pure life, purity. Without giving up Asudhi, Asudhi means impurity. Without giving up Asudhi, impurity, one cannot live a pure life. So the more we are purified, the more we are inclined to purity, the more we can advance in Krishna consciousness. That's why Prabhupada says purity is the force. Whatever we want to do in Krishna consciousness is based on purity. The more pure a devotee is, the more he can achieve a love for Krishna. The more he can preach unlimitedly and influence people to take the Krishna consciousness. So purity is the force. And that comes by chanting the pure name of Krishna. So that is the way the mind has to be fixed on Krishna. So if we fix the mind on Krishna, as Ambarish Maharaj did, then it is possible to make progress. And in this age of Kali, there is no easier way than chanting the holy names. Because the holy names are not different from Krishna. When we chant the holy names very sincerely, very attentively, the Krishna factor manifests through the holy names. And we can feel the association of Krishna. We can feel the presence of Krishna in our lives. Slide 77, talks about the 2 times of sadhana bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami described 2 types of sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. The main distinction between the two is the source of their inspiration. In Raganuga bhakti, the inspiration comes from a natural attraction to devotional service. In Vaidhi bhakti, there is no such attraction. So the practitioner must rely on the orders of the spiritual master and the scriptures. So sadhana bhakti is divided into 2 sections. First, Vaidhi sadhana. That is devotional service under the order of the spiritual master and the scriptures. Even though we have no taste for it, even though we have no attraction for it, but on the order of the spiritual master, we are prepared to execute the process of bhakti. This is called Vaidhi bhakti. In the beginning of bhakti, we have to take orders from the spiritual master. We have to take orders from the superiors. We have to rise up early. We have to attend Mangalarati. We have to sit down and chant our japa. We have to do some service under the guidance of the spiritual master. But as we progress on the path, we develop some taste. We like to chant. We like to wake up early to attend Mangalarati. We like to read. We like to hear. We like to engage in some services. That is Raganuga. when we are no more compelled by the orders of the spiritual master, when we are no more compelled by the authority of our temple, that we must wake up early, we must attend Mangarati, we must chant our rounds, we must do this, we must do that. When we are no more compelled by these orders, when we do the things voluntarily, we are attracted to them. We have developed some taste to do them. So we no more wait for anybody to tell us what to do. As soon as it's 3 o'clock, we are up because we know we must chant some rounds. We must get ready for the day. We must attend Mangararati. We must attend classes. We must read. We have developed some taste. That is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So the inspiration is coming from the taste that we are experiencing. The inspiration is no more coming from the spiritual master, so to say, because for a new devotee, he needs instructions from his temple management, temple authority, who represents the authority of the spiritual master, to rise up early, to take a bath, to chant, to attend Mangarati, to do some service, and so on. But for one who is experiencing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, he gains inspiration from the taste of devotional service. He loves to do it. He's having some realizations. He's having some experiences, and he does not have to wait for somebody to tell him what to do. So the difference between Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is that the source of inspiration is different. In the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the inspiration comes from the spiritual master and from the scriptures. And the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, the inspiration comes from the taste that we have cultivated, we have developed from the practice. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please, can I ask a question at this point?
Yes, you can ask.
How do we describe the difference between Raganuga Bhakti and Bhava Bhakti?
Yes, we will come to that. The difference is that Bhava Bhakti entails ecstasy. That's why it's called Bhava Bhakti. On the Bhava Bhakti platform, one experiences continuous ecstasy from the very activities that he is performing. On the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one may not necessarily experience continuous ecstasy. He may experience momentary happiness, momentary ecstasy. It comes, but it goes. But that momentary ecstasy, momentary taste helps him to remain attached to the practice of sadhana. But in the case of Bhava Bhakti, there is a continuous flow of ecstasy because he is on that Bhava platform, which is just the preliminary stage of prema. So, but it is from the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one goes to Bhava Bhakti. So when one is on the Raganuga Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, he's a candidate to going to the platform of Bhava Bhakti. Because without that Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one cannot experience Bhava Bhakti. But the difference is in the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, there are pockets of pleasure, moments of pleasure. So he has some taste is there, but it's not continuous. But that momentary taste attracts him to practice, gingers him to practice, inspires him to practice without waiting for any instructions. But in the case of the Baba, he is experiencing continuous ecstasy. So he does not want the ecstasy to stop. So he engaged in constant devotional service.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the next slide, 78.
I have Akem's arms up.
Okay, let us hear.
Please unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
I'm very, very happy with the explanation you give actually. But what I want to say is sometimes we have this taste to do it, and we experience, how can I say it?
Some happiness.
Some happiness.
Yes.
And then after 3 days, it's like something push you down. You want to do it, but you can't. How can we explain this?
Yeah, it's part of the progress.
How can you explain? Because it's like something push you deeper down. You want to do it, but you can't. How can you explain this, Maharaj?
Yes. See, earlier on I explained that when we are about to be catapulted to the next stage of our spiritual development, when we are about to be promoted to the next level of our spiritual advancement, there is always what is called the dark hour. It is said that just before the day breaks, there is always a momentary darkness. The darkness becomes very intense. And then from there, the sun begins to shine. So when you start experiencing some happiness, some ecstasy in devotional service, it means you are drawing Krishna's attention. Krishna is becoming attracted to what you are doing. And that is why you are experiencing that ecstasy, that happiness. But then Krishna will want to find out whether you are actually ready for what he's giving you by giving you some other challenge. Some other challenge will come up. So we have to be very determined. That is the thing. One has to be very determined. That's what Rupa Goswami says, Usahan Nischayat Dariyat. One must be very enthusiastic, one must be very patient, and one must be very determined. These three things, they are very essential in making progress in Krishna consciousness. You have to be very determined. If you're not very determined, when the challenges come, you will go down. But if you are very determined, understanding that Krishna is taking note of my service, and that is why I'm feeling happiness in this devotional service. Actually, without Krishna's intervention, without Krishna giving us ecstasy, we cannot experience it. Krishna awards us with the ecstasy. He awards us with the pleasure of devotional service. Without that, we cannot experience it. So when we are feeling that pleasure, that ecstasy, the understanding should be Krishna is taking note, Krishna is happy with us, and therefore is allowing us to have the experience of the spiritual nature of devotional service. And so we have to be very alert that the next thing Krishna will do is he would want to see whether we are very determined or not. So the only way you can overcome that challenge is to be very, very determined that now I'm getting Krishna's mercy in the form of this ecstasy. So definitely some challenge is going to come, some tests will come. So let me just be very determined, very loyal, very sincere, And then the challenge will come all the same, but because you are very determined, you are very sincere, you're very loyal, you will overcome and go to the next stage of the ecstasy. So this is Raganuga, Sadhana Bhakti. Ecstasy comes, but it also goes. Ecstasy comes, but it also goes. But it is meant to help us understand that there is nectar in devotional service. There is joy in devotional service. And so we will hanker to experience that pleasure again. We will hanker to have that experience again. And so that inspiration to do more devotional service is coming from that taste, that attraction that we experience in devotional service.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we can move on to the next, that is slide 78, I guess.
78 or 79?
Is it 78 or 79?
I think we're supposed to be going to 79. We've discussed
okay.
Between Vaidhi and Raganga Sadhana.
Okay, so I'm going to 79.
79.
79, the essence of Vaidhi Bhakti. This is from the Padma Purana. Smaratavya Satatam Vishnu, Vishmartavya Nan Jatunchit, Sarve Vidin Ishida Siu Itayo Ekakin Karaha. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. All the rules and prohibitions in the Shastra are servants of these two principles. So all the rules and prohibitions in the scripture, they are simply servants. Kinkara, Kinkara means servant. They are servants of these two principles. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So this is the essence of Sadhana Bhakti. The essence of Sadhana Bhakti is to fix the mind on Krishna. My dear king, one has to fix his mind on Krishna by all means. It says, Shishupal and Kamsa became liberated by fixing their minds on Krishna, even though they didn't do it favorably. The gopis, the Pandavas, they all fixed their mind on Krishna. So fixing the mind on Krishna is the goal, how we can fix our mind on Krishna. And by engaging in sadhana bhakti, by engaging our minds, engaging our senses, engaging the body, gradually we will develop some affinity for bhakti, and then the mind will become fixed. The mind is the center of the senses, and the senses control the body. So if the mind is fixed in Krishna, then automatically the senses are controlled, and automatically the body is controlled. So therefore, fixing the mind on Krishna is very, very important. The next slide, 80. Engaging our occupational duty in the worship of the Lord. Thus, the Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that there is no need of even this designation oneself, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyas. Let everyone be engaged in whatever occupation he now has. Simply let him worship Lord Krishna by the result of his activities in Krishna consciousness. That will adjust the whole situation, and everyone will be happy and peaceful within this material world. So we don't need to change our Varna, nor do we have to change our ashram. All that we need to do is to add Krishna activities. Whatever we do, we should offer the results to Krishna. And that is what Krishna is demanding in the Bhagavad Gita. Yat karosi, yat anyasi, juhosi dadasi yat. Whatever you do, yat karosi, yat anyasi, whatever you eat, and whatever charity you give, you should do that as an offering unto me. Whatever austerities you perform, you should do that as an offering unto me. So the process of bhakti is to add Krishna to whatever we are doing. So if we just simply offer the results of our activities to Krishna, it doesn't matter our situation, it doesn't matter our ashram, it doesn't matter our occupation. Once we engage our activities in Krishna's service, Krishna is pleased, and Krishna will help us. We go to the next slide, 81. One says, activities meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord accepted as principles of devotional service. In the Narada Pancharatra, the regulatory principles of devotional service are described as follows. Any activities sanctioned in the revealed scriptures and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and accepted by saintly teachers as the regulatory principles of devotional service. If one regularly executes such service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, then gradually he rises to the platform of serving in pure love of God. So it's like the previous verse saying we should engage our occupational duty in the service of the Lord. So here Narada Pancharatra is saying that any activity sanctioned in the revealed scriptures and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are accepted by saintly teachers as the regulatory principles of devotional service. And if one regularly executes such service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, then gradually he rises to the platform of serving in pure love of God. So the process of how to get to that pure platform is given here. Any activity sanctioned by the scripture are accepted by the saintly acharya, the teachers, as devotional principles. And so by engaging in such principles, one can actually make progress towards the ultimate goal, which is Krishna consciousness. So we'll go to the next slide, which is 82. Eligibility for accepting devotional service. Attraction to Krishna is the only qualification for devotional service. But how does one get this attraction? Only by the mercy of the pure devotee. By great fortune and by the causeless mercy of Krishna, one gets the association of pure devotees. So we already discussed the eligibility. Attraction to Krishna is the only qualification for devotional service. But how does one get this attraction? Only by the mercy of the pure devotee. So the pure devotees, they are the embodiment of pure devotional service. They are the abode of bhakti. And so by the mercy, we can engage in devotional service. So text 83, slide 83 says, attaining the perfection of life by pure devotion to Krishna. 83. Kevalena hi bhavena gopyo gavo naga mrigaha. Ye nye modam diyot naga sidamam iyur anjasaha. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the gopis, cows, or moving creatures, such as the twin Arjuna trees, animals, living entities with stunted consciousness, such as the bushes and thickets, and snakes, such as Kaliya, all achieve the perfection of life by unalloyed love for me, and thus very easily achieve me. And that is why Lord Brahma is praying in the Bhagavatam, Aho Bhagyam, Nanda Vrajokashaha, that the fortune of the Brijavasis cannot be estimated, cannot be described. The fortune of the residents of Vrindavan cannot be estimated. Because Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has become their friend. Maitram Paramanandam, Puna Brahma Sanatanam. Krishna has become their friend. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now become the friends of the Brijavasis. And so, Krishna is saying here, they have developed unalloyed love for him. And as a result, they have achieved him. Achieve Krishna means unalloyed devotional service. One cannot achieve Krishna without developing unalloyed devotional service.
Yeah. Time, place, and circumstance.
So
But the kind of question,
84. Slide 84 talks about the grace of eligibility. A person's depth of faith and knowledge places him in one of the three classes of candidates: Uttama, Madhyama, or Kanishta. If you go to the next verse, the next slide, it gives more elaboration. 85, slide 85. It gives more elaboration. It says the only qualification to begin devotional service is the devotee's mercy, who enthuses us with attraction to the Supreme Lord. So the qualification for performing sadhana bhakti is the mercy of the devotees. Then the next one, the qualification to advance inviting sadhana bhakti depends upon the maturity of our knowledge of and faith in the scriptures. So that is why we have to undergo all these courses. The qualification to advance inviting sadhana bhakti depends on the maturity of our knowledge and faith in the scriptures. So this whole study is to enhance our maturity in knowledge and to deepen our faith in the scriptures. Then we can perform Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti very nicely and rise to the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti and eventually to the platform of Bhava Bhakti. And the next one says the qualification to practice pure devotional service is liberation from the bodily concept of life. So anyone who wants to perform pure devotional service must actually transcend the bodily platform of existence. He must. Because we cannot practice pure devotional service if we are still inclined to the bodily concept. One must understand his spiritual position. One must understand that I am Krishna Nityadas. I'm not a body. I'm actually an account of Krishna. One has to come to that platform in order to engage in pure devotional service. So first, we need the mercy of the devotees to engage in sadhana. And then furthermore, we need to deepen our knowledge and faith in the scriptures to further progress in sadhana bhakti to the platform of Raganuga bhakti. And for us to come to the pure platform of devotional service, we must come to the liberated platform where we are no more attached to the body. So it is said that qualification for sadhana bhakti depends on the strength of our taste or our attraction for Krishna. The more pronounced our taste, the greater our qualification. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami says that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness, persons eligible for Krishna consciousness can be classified by their taste. Consequently, our advancement in Krishna consciousness is not based on intellectual abilities, but is based on our taste for hearing Krishna Katha. The taste to hearing Krishna Katha is the hallmark. That is the parameter, the main parameter for assessing the advancement of a devotee. Attraction for devotional service and execution of devotional service is based on our taste of hearing Krishna consciousness. The more we are inclined to hearing, the more we develop taste for hearing Krishna consciousness, the more we can advance quickly. It is said that there are 4 types of persons who have ulterior motives. And because of their ulterior motives, they are not eligible for pure devotional service. They even lack that weak faith required for the minimum eligibility to practice devotional service. However, because they are approaching the Lord, like the Bhagavad Gita talks about the 4 pious people, those who are in misery, those who are after wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are seeking knowledge. Bhagavad Gita describes these 4 pious souls who approach the Lord. So because they approach the Lord, they turn their attention to Krishna, even though there are some ulterior motives, but gradually Krishna blesses them to give up their motives and become pure devotees. Gajendra is said to be the example of artha, or distress. Gajendra was in great distress when he was attacked by the crocodile in the lake. And out of that distressful condition, he cried out to the Lord. Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted wealth, artha arti. He wanted wealth because his stepmother had thrown him off his father's throne. So he became very distressed, very disturbed, and he wanted wealth. Sonaka Rishi and the sages of Naima Serenya, they were inquisitive. Gingyansur, they are examples of Gingyansur. They were inquisitive to know. And so Sutta Goswami enlightened them. And by the association of Sutta Goswami and by hearing Krishna's pastime, they all became pure devotees. And then the Chatusana, or the 4 Kumaras, they are in knowledge. They are gyanis. And by the association of devotees, by association of Lord Vishnu, by smelling the incense, the tulsi plants, tulsi leaves, they became pure devotees. So, 4 types of people approach the Lord, but they have ulterior motives. And because of these ulterior motives, they are not eligible to become pure devotees. They're not eligible to perform pure devotional service. But because they have approached the Lord favors them. And with the continuous association, they give up their ulterior motives and they become servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Become pure servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So on this note, I think if there are no questions, we would like to end here because I have another program at 10 o'clock and I have to run for it. So if there are questions, they're welcome. If there are no questions, we call it a day. And then tomorrow, we continue with the lesson 3, which is chapters 4, 5, and 6. Any comments, questions? Thank you very much for your mercy. Thank you for your association. We hope to meet again tomorrow.
Thank you very much. So, now let's Krishna to the for his wonderful presentation today. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
See you tomorrow.